Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and today we are talking about Save the Date by Morgan Matson. Now, I kind of want to be clear here first. This is a contemporary, and I do not normally read contemporaries. In fact, I kind of don't really like contemporaries, so that definitely did affect my opinion on the book when reading it. It's okay though, for contemporary. Save the Date follows the story of the last summer before our main character Charlie moves off to college. This is the last chance her family is going to be together before her parents sell the house, and she is dedicated to the fact that she's going to make her sister's wedding the best wedding. Unfortunately, that plan kind of falls apart when the wedding planner ends up quitting for reasons, and she basically has to help take over and manage the wedding, which is going to happen in 3 days. Yeah, 3 days is all this book takes place over. And I have read reviews about Morgan Matson book before. This is personally my first time reading a story by this author, but from what I've heard, generally her story takes place over the entire summer. And the fact that this is only 3 days is apparently a bit of a shift for this author. Now, this story has two main themes. The first one is family, and the second one is the willingness to change. Now, the B plot in this story is actually more along the line of the Grant family comic line, which is a comic strip featured in the local newspaper, and the fact that they live in a sort of a really small town, this comic strip is incredibly well known, so you always have people coming into the story asking, like, have we been to this house before? Like, have I met you before? Like, no, you just read the comic strip. But there's sort of a problem with this, because the comic strip presents a sort of fake perfection about the family. The Grant family is something that everyone wants to be a part of, but not so much the Grant family. So our main character, Charlie, has to learn to separate the comic strip family and her real family, and understanding that her family isn't perfect as much as it's portrayed to be. Like I mentioned before, this is Charlie's last summer before she goes off to college, and as a person who has just arrived in college, I can tell you, that last summer, like, you better make that count, you guys. It probably may not seem that big in the long haul, but at the moment, like, I'm very attuned to stress, and so I understood the stress that these characters were going through, and it was insane. I gotta say, reading this book was very stressful for me, actually, because I've been in a wedding. I've been a bridesmaid in a wedding. I just got to college. Like, all this craziness and hectic, energy in this book was so stressful to read. So not only does Charlie have to understand her life is changing and she's going off to college and she's making this huge decision of where she wants to go, but also her family is selling the house, so this is the last chance she's going to be in her childhood home. And not only that, her sister is getting married. Suddenly she's going to have to share her older sister. So yeah, there's a lot of stress in this book. But like I just said, there is so much going on in this book, it's kind of hard to keep track of it. You see, when the wedding planner quits, she doesn't just quit. She creates chaos. She leaves a wave of disaster for people to clean up after her. And so Charlie and the character Bill, who the company sent to replace the wedding planner, spend a huge portion of this book going around and trying to clean up the mess that this old wedding planner had left for them. Some people see a romance between Charlie and Bill. Frankly, I don't like at all. I guess they kind of become good friends, but there's nothing in this that indicates any sort of romantic interest. Maybe it's the fact that later in the book, Charlie has to start realizing her feelings for her old crush, and therefore it opens up like a new opportunity for Bill, and Bill is the same age as her, but again, I just don't see chemistry between them. I want to talk about the pacing of this book really quickly. It takes place over 3 days, and in that 3 days, almost half of the book takes place on the first day. It just felt like things just kept happening on the first day. It kept dragging on. I don't know why, but I got through like a quarter of the book and started thinking it must have been the next day already, not realizing that the day hadn't ended yet. We hadn't got that big spread page saying it's Sunday, but details kept being thrown in, problems kept presenting themselves, and it kind of got to a point where I don't think that many problems could happen and you could resolve all of them in one day. I don't think there's enough time in the day for that to actually happen. I have to say, the characters in this book were really well defined. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and at times it's kind of hard to keep track of who's who, But really, like, they all had their own personality. Like, even if I couldn't remember their names, I knew who they were simply by their actions and their way of speak, which is something I don't see that often in contemporaries. Even a lot of the minor characters are really well defined. Like there's this paper girl who, like, the running joke is she doesn't deliver the Grant family paper. And even though she only shows up in a couple scenes, like, we know who this character is. There's a couple more instances of that, but there's also a few that directly contradict that. Maybe it's because of the fact about the middle book I was kind of skimming a couple paragraphs because it did keep dragging on. It was still the first day. But there were a couple characters that were lost to me, and I do completely believe that was my fault. But at the same time, I couldn't really keep my attention on these pages that well. It just simply happened, I guess. There's only so much attention I can really give to something that's really making me stressed out, and something that at the same time keeps dragging on and therefore kind of gets a little bit boring in my mind. Something I heard a lot of people talk about is the fact that Morgan Matson always includes a dog in her book. But I'm just saying that the storyline involving the dog in this book was a bit thrown in there. Like, for the first half when the dog was introduced, it was just kind of existing, where the second half I do think it was handled better. Like, if any of you have ever dealt with a new puppy before, you know that it's pure chaos. And the fact that it was simply there, and they only mentioned giving the dog a walk twice, and that was in the latter half of the book. Kind of a bit disappointing, I guess. If you include a really cute beagle, include a really cute beagle. Like, please have it, like, actually part of the story. I'm just saying, look at that dog. Look how cute it is. Why is it not in more of the story? A quick little detail I actually want to talk about while I'm holding the book is the fact that the inside, like, it's just blank cover. It's black and white, and I really like that because when I saw it, and I knew what the plot was going into this, I was like, this is a book about a wedding. Like, it's black and white. Clearly, it's cute and adorable. I actually read it without this jacket on because it's kind of that jacket that leaves, like, fingerprints on it, and I don't really like that. And I already had to deal with the sticker because I bought this at Target, so they had that huge sticker on it. I was literally carrying around, like, this black and white book, and I was like, this is actually, like, a book I like without this jacket. The inside of the jacket as well, it gives you kind of, like, an idea about what the Grant family is. Like, you see these comic strips inside the book, but this is often a person's first introduction of what exactly these characters look like in their comics. So, at the very least, we know what they are referring to when they start talking about their comic book egos. Overall, it was an okay book. Like, again, I didn't love it, but that's mostly my fault because I don't like contemporary. Things just kept happening, they just kept piling onto themselves, and I didn't really need that much stress in my life while I was reading it. So that probably factored into my decision, but overall, I do have to give this book a 6 out of 10. Like, it wasn't it for me. I enjoyed it, but I'm probably gonna give this book away. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you like this review and have any books not quite so much like this, leave it down in the comment section down below. I would love to see what you guys want me to read next. And while you're there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.